So a question I get asked a ton on stream is, what's my first steel ship I should get? That is a super common question, and it makes sense because steel takes a while to get in this game. So, in my opinion, Bourgogne is the best steel ship you could possibly buy. And that is for a couple reasons. But one, the ship is just amazing. This match hopefully will show you the strengths of it, right? Having a reload booster, it's a Jean Bart on steroids, right? It's 50% better than a Jean Bart, and everybody raves about how good Jean Bart is, right? The ship is faster, it's got more guns, it's got pretty decent AA even, and well, the guns hit really hard. Honestly, the reload booster is just incredibly fun. I play this ship as a flanker. I try and use the AP as much as possible. Most people don't do that. Most people just spam high explosive out of it, which is a viable way to play it. I just hate that playstyle. I think it's fine, but I think it requires very little skill to do. You just kind of sit and spawn, spamming HE at whatever battleship is spotted. It's not very fun for me. So I think the best way to play it is flanking with AP. You can do these massive Dev Strike salvos. You get reload booster. If you don't get a Dev Strike, you're just going to hit them again in 10 seconds. It's a good time. So the ship is amazing, right? I think everybody can see that. And if you don't, just continue watching this game. It's really good. The other thing I think you should be considering, at least, when thinking about buying a ship with steel, is how rare or unique the ship is. I think uniqueness is something you should definitely be considering, just because steel is so hard to get. I think the Bourgogne is a very unique ship in this game compared to a lot of the other steel ships, right? You can get a Stalingrad, but Puerto Rico is basically just... Sorry, not Puerto Rico. Petropavlovsk is just a Stalingrad with slightly smaller guns that have a better reload and better concealment. So, well, yes, you don't have the long-range capability. Petro's actually better in a close-range fight than a Stalingrad is. I think the playstyles can be pretty similar. You also have something like Moskva that does reasonably well at long range as well. I'm not saying Stalingrad isn't unique, because it is unique, but I think Bourgogne is just even more unique than something like a Stalingrad. Shikishima is a Yamato with better AA, and that's it. It plays just like a Yamato. The playstyle is the exact same, and to me, that's not as interesting as something like a Bourgogne. I know you want it for the gun sounds. Everybody wants it for the gun sounds, but I do believe that once you get it, you'll notice that, oh, I could just be playing my Yamato. Why did I spend all this steel on this ship? When I could have had the same gaming experience for basically the same money. Or for free. You know, you didn't have to spend all this steel on it, right? So that's kind of the two main ones that people talk about in my mind when they're looking at a steel ship. They ask me Shikishima or Bourgogne or Stalingrad or Bourgogne. And I think Bourgogne is the clear answer for your first steel ship. Now, if you're not a battleship player and you have no interest in battleships, I don't blame you. They kind of suck right now. But then you can get one of the cruisers. Maybe Austin is an interesting option. That's a very unique ship, right? It's not as all-powerful or as good in all scenarios like something like the Bourgogne, but Austin is definitely a very unique ship. But I still believe that Bourgogne is going to be your best option. Even if you don't play much for battleships, the fast reload, the good speed, the decent concealment, the ability to just shoot HE when things are angled and do pretty good damage makes this ship play a lot more like a cruiser. Right? You only get 74,000 HP, so it's not that boring battleship playstyle. I don't think. This ship doesn't have as much of that in it. So definitely something to consider. But this is my goal every time I'm in a Bourgogne. If I spawn on a flank, I am going to be pushing that flank or holding that flank, depending on what the enemy team does. You can see here we had the opportunity to push down on this flank using islands. Islands, of course, very powerful for any ship. And our Shimakaze actually even smokes us up. And we have a 15-4 detection when firing our main guns from smoke. So we actually can shoot dark here and shoot this Montana. So how funny is that? Just because of the low caliber of guns, right? We only have 380mm guns on something like the Bourgogne. And that can be a downside, right? Something like a Des Moines bow-in is a nightmare for you to deal with, right? Like, you're not going to get much damage with your HE because your dispersion won't allow you to hit too many shells. And, of course, your AP is just going to bounce off his nose because you don't overmatch 27mm. That's, of course, the ships you want to avoid at these closer ranges. I'm using this island, trying to keep the Salem in between, or the island in between myself and the Salem because, well, he would spot me if I shot. I back out, I think, a little too far. The speed boost really does give you some amazing acceleration and deacceleration, so you got to get used to that. But the HE is pretty solid, as you can see. And I'm not saying don't ever use HE, because I definitely do use it. But I just try and use my AP more, right? 6 Citadels, in my mind, is more satisfying than 6 Fires. It's just more interesting to me. Now, if you're concerned about competitive side of things, based on your choices that you make in the armory for steel, I don't think you have to worry too much, because Yamato is basically the same as a Shikishima. In my mind, Yamato would be a better choice for a lot of competitive modes, just because it has more shells, it's more consistent on that one-time salvo. Yes, Shikishima has more, or a better reload, obviously, but I think a lot of the time in competitive, you're looking for that one-time alpha strike. So having the extra volume of shells on the Yamato, and the Shikishima doesn't really get any meaningful extra overmatch, makes it a really strong option. They're both very good, is what I'll say. You can make both work really, really well. Stalingrad, in my mind, doesn't really play in competitive that much anymore. The radar has been nerfed. The captain skills have definitely nerfed it down, right? You don't have the ability to take fire prevention, so you're very vulnerable to something like HE spam if you're stuck in a bow-in position trying to radar things. Your concealment definitely doesn't help you out there. So something like a Petro is used a lot of the time instead of a Stalingrad, or even Moskvas, because they don't burn for as long, right? It's not the all-powerful tanky pusher ship that it used to be. There you can see the power of Bourgogne AP. Basically two salvoing that Shikishima, who gave us a little too much side. It's very, very nice and very consistent with the reload boost. I really, really do enjoy it. But yeah, from a competitive standpoint, Bourgogne isn't used that much either. It just doesn't have as much HP. It doesn't have the tanking ability that, in my mind, is required for competitive. Yes, it has amazing DPM. Yes, it's got all these other factors that make it an amazing ship. But a lot of the time, competitive doesn't go exactly how you plan, right? You can plan to set up a battleship in a really good position for crossfires or something like that. The Republic suffers from the same thing, where, yes, the ship is insane gunpowder, but oftentimes competitive doesn't go as you plan. And at the end of the game, if you're losing, or you need to push a cap to win the game, well, these ships really aren't good at that. And that's why you bring something like Montana, or Ohio, or Yamato, or something just tankier, right? Something with some armor on it that allows it to just push and sit in a cap. Kremlin, for example, right? Even if you're getting less gunpowder out of it, you're still going to do some pretty good damage when somebody gives you broadside in any of these battleships. The main thing, of course, is that you have that option, that flexibility to make those pushing plays later on in the game. And that's where I don't like using Bourgogne in competitive. It definitely can work. It's not like it can't. Personally, I enjoy the flexibility of being able to push in, suggest a push late game. I often am doing that in competitive games where, you know, maybe we're losing or we are in danger of maybe losing a flank. I'll suggest a push I can make to help support that flank or get us a cap or stall out a cap, that kind of thing. And when I'm in a ship that has armor, it has healing, that kind of thing, I'm able to do that a lot better without dying too quickly. So all that to say, basically, that competitive should not be your reason for getting or not getting a steel ship right now. I don't think any of them are that amazing for competitive. And so I just keep coming back to Bourgogne. It's just the most fun experience in my mind. The fast reload, the amazing speed that this ship has, right? You can nearly get up to 40 knots. I think it's 38 something on a battleship. You're not quite as fast as Georgia, but you're the second fastest battleship in the game. The 12 very accurate guns, the reload booster. You saw us getting that fourth kill, picking that up. Now we've gone through all of our reload boosters at this point, so we're a little bit more like an Alsace at this point, but an Alsace with a much better reload and much better dispersion. It's a really, really fun ship, right? 263k damage, that's a monster game. 11 citadels, right? Double-digit levels of citadels. Bourgogne is fun. It is just a very fun ship, and that is why I think people should be looking at least into getting Bourgogne as their first steel ship. I think you're just going to have the best time overall with it as we pick up our Kraken Unleashed. It's pretty good at getting Krakens, considering its guns reload quickly. That's one of the issues with battleships. You don't often have the reload to pick up a lot of kills, so Bourgogne is definitely very good at doing that. I just skipped to the end of the game because literally nothing happened after I got that kill. But 265k, 11 citadels, Kraken, high caliber. Pretty decent result. Nearly 3k base XP even. So the way I build my Bourgogne is basically like every other battleship at this point. Fire prevention, concealment, Deadeye. Deadeye is definitely going, so I will be switching it back to probably emergency repair expert, maybe dabbling with some AA skills, since that's kind of what I've been looking into, is AA building my battleships, and it's actually been working not too bad. Bourgogne, of course, having some pretty incredible AA values, might actually benefit from some of these skills. But a more standard build, once Deadeye is gone, is going to be fire prevention, concealment, and then emergency repair expert. The last tier 3 skill you'd get is definitely basic survivability. That way you've got a tanky battleship that has good concealment and the ability to pump out a lot of damage over time. I think that's going to be a pretty standard build. Swift and Silence is just not going to be a good skill. The skill doesn't give you speed when you're detected. So basically anytime you're shooting in a battleship, anytime you're in trouble of dying, you won't have Swift and Silence active because somebody's going to be spotting you and you're going to be dying. And you're not going to be able to get that extra speed to help you survive. So it's not a survivability skill. It's basically only for repositioning. And you already have a speed boost for that. I really, really don't think Swift and Silence is going to be that good. I would way rather take other survivability-based skills that help me stay alive longer than reposition slightly faster. It's possible it's a good skill for someone who's not used to the game or is newer to the game and maybe doesn't think quite as far ahead when repositioning. That'll help you get into positions a little bit quicker once you notice where you need to go. But for now, for me, I will never use Swift and Silence on anything. Unless it changes, but in its current state, I won't be using it on anything. The equipment, I'm running pretty simple. Reload, concealment, propulsion mod. You can speed juke very well with propulsion mod and speed boost active. It's pretty awesome combination. And getting my aiming better, making my speed boost last longer, keeping my turrets alive. Very, very basic build, but it makes Bourgogne a very, very strong tier 10 battleship. And a lot of fun to play, and it's quite unique. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.